Greetings from the crew here at Inovonics. I'm Eric Banghart, Global Sales Manager. And thanks for logging on from your never-ending staycation to join us for the third edition of the Inovonics Weekly Cup Series. This week we'll get you woke on the benefits of using one of the best tools in the business in your quest to become a wireless expert. Yeah, I write this stuff. Scott Fincher from our product management team will lead our presentation this week and was instrumental in the redesign and the launch of our sleek survey kit and app several years ago. Scott resides in Louisville, Colorado and works out of our corporate office. Stay tuned as he'll show you how to improve your job estimating, troubleshoot tough installations, and even turn our survey kit into a unique selling tool. As always, we want this to be as interactive as possible, so please send in questions, suggestions for future topics, or comments throughout the presentation by using the chat button in the upper right-hand corner. We'll address your questions today or put you in contact with your territory sales manager. Thanks again for attending, and we'll do our best to make your cup runneth over with wireless knowledge. Scotty, take it away.
Thanks, Eric. And thanks everybody for joining our review of the Inovonics Survey Kit and app this morning. As Eric said, when estimating commercial security jobs, the Inovonics Survey Kit and app takes the guesswork out of quoting, enabling a single person to determine precisely where and when to include additional infrastructure to ensure effective signal propagation. The result is improved profitability by minimizing scheduling delays, cost overruns, and requotes. What we're going to cover today in this brief presentation, the challenges presented when quoting wired or wireless jobs, how these challenges can negatively impact your profitability, how the survey kit and app can take that guesswork out of the quoting process, and probably most importantly, how it can help your customers overcome their fear of wireless. And this could be customers and even some of your employees as well. Maybe in the past they've had some bad experiences with wireless and they've gotten burned and they're fearful of it. With the survey kit and app, you can demonstrate the effectiveness of the system because what it's doing is effectively measuring the system range as you're actually walking the site. You're actually measuring the effectiveness of EchoStream on a particular property. As we're running through this, some questions that I'd like you all to think about and maybe chat in your answers to me. I really want to focus on the challenges that you're facing. So, like I said, as we're running through this, think about these and chat in your responses. At what stage of the process are you typically called upon to prepare an estimate or a quote? What tools do you have at your disposal? What are some of the challenges that you face for retrofits and new construction? And what happens if you get it wrong? Chat those comments back into Nikki. There is a bit of a delay, so just know that we will get to them, and I'll stop before we get too far along and check in with Nikki for feedback. Let's talk about quoting for new construction and retrofits. The security integrators that we work with consistently reference challenges with accurately quoting jobs, both wired and wireless. Of course, everyone wants to get it done correctly and they want to get it right the first time, but depending on the project, you may not always have all the information you need. You typically know where and what type of endpoints you're going to be installing, but that's really only part of the total system. There's also the additional infrastructure that's required to make sure the system works as intended. It boils down to not necessarily knowing what's behind those walls or not knowing what surprises await you and your staff once they get on site. Getting back to those questions, at what stage are you called upon to estimate? You know, from what we hear from customers, it's either too late, too early, or too narrow a time window to get it done right. Tools that you have at your disposal, blueprints, floor plans, maybe there's some A&E specifications, product literature. You can obviously do a site visit. Challenges with new construction, there might be site delays or site changes rather, delays in the schedule. Maybe a contractor or sub didn't get in and out as quickly as they anticipated. With retrofits, those same issues, but because you're dealing with existing buildings, there's some new challenges. Particularly with historical structures, you've got the historical fabric of the building to consider, and there's always mounting challenges when you're trying to determine where best to place wireless hardware or wired hardware and not disrupt the flow of an existing building. In both instances, new construction and retrofits, things change. Maybe things aren't accurate. You have to respond to those things. What happens when you get it wrong? Well, time and money. Extra cost, you maybe have to send people back to the site for a second or a third time. Maybe you have to re-estimate it. Maybe there's some costs that you have to incur that you have to eat. Nikki, before we get in much further, any feedback from anybody on the call?
Let me take a look here. I think I've got one. Let's see. As we go in at the beginning and have to make it work, I'm not sure I understand that feedback. I guess that was the only one I got, Scott. It may be actually a connection question.
Okay.
So go ahead and continue, and I'll jump in at the end and let you know if I'm getting any more feedback, okay?
Sounds good. All right, let's talk a bit about wired specifically. For a wired system, the sales rep can certainly walk the site, and they can reference floor plans to determine what hardware is required and where it should be located. But a wired system's Achilles heel comes in the form of labor overruns. One of our top national accounts mentioned they simply accept that the labor portion of their quotes for a wired system will be wrong 40% of the time. 40% of the time. Reason being, while preparing those quotes, again, you know what hardwares you need to put in, but you don't necessarily know how it's going to get wired. You don't know what they're going to encounter once they get on site. What looks like drywall or a drop ceiling may be something else entirely. Or when the installer is on site, they might discover that they need an additional 40 feet of conduit, or maybe a lift is required, or trenching and all the repairs that come along with that after you create that trench and then have to fill it back in, repairing parking lots and whatnot. Or maybe what you thought was a single person job really requires two. These can all be issues with new construction and retrofits, particularly if it's one of those older historic buildings and you need to protect the building fabric. The result is potential scheduling delays, cost overruns, and the possibility of having to requote. The flip side can certainly occur if you're in lockstep with the developer and the property owner, and you're given enough time and have all the information you need to quote the job correctly up front, but we all know that's typically not going to be the case. All right, let's move on to wireless. What happens with wireless? Well, you know, wireless, obviously you get some flexibility. There's no wire runs per se as you have with wired, but it has its own unique challenges. As with a wired solution, the rep can walk the site, your installer can walk the site, review floor plans as they're preparing the quote. But with most wireless systems, the only way to really know if it's going to work is to set it up. You can either look at an LED that confirms connectivity within the transmitter itself, or maybe in a head end, or maybe it's something you're going to be evaluating within the application to ensure it's reporting in correctly. If the installer doesn't get that confirmation, they've got a few alternatives. None of them are great. First, they might be able to reposition that endpoint to improve reception, but that takes extra time and can negatively impact system performance. Specifically, if it's a motion detector that needs to cover a certain hallway, for example, you don't necessarily have the opportunity to move it too far away because you lose the coverage of the area that you're looking to monitor. Similarly, with a contact closure on a door or window, you can't really move that door or window. They have to be where they have to be. Second, if available from the wireless provider you're working with, you could add repeaters. That may require an additional visit if they don't have it on them at the time, and there's certainly going to be installation cost and time ramifications associated with that. Third, and kind of the nuclear option, is you could determine that wireless just really isn't a good choice for the property that you're looking at least the wireless that you've chosen. The result is the need to rethink that job entirely. As with wired, though, the result is the same. You can risk those scheduling delays and the resulting customer service fallout that comes with requoting the job, or you can absorb the cost and take the profitability hit. In speaking with our customers, most of them opt for that profitability hit for the sake of maintaining that customer relationship. Fortunately, and you probably figured this was coming, there is an alternative. Our EN 7017 survey kit and app consists of a few different things. So you've got a survey kit transmitter here. you've got a receiver that you keep on your person, and you've got an app that was iOS or Android compatible. It all comes in this nice carrying case to keep it secure and safe for the next job. Details on the application and the kit itself are available on our website, and you can certainly reach out to your account manager. At the conclusion of this, Nikki will send out an email with a link to our demo videos that you can review as well. At this point, we have one of our account managers, Bob, is on the call with us too. He recently completed a survey of a large shopping mall which required dozens of repeaters. Thought it'd be a good idea to pull him in and he can give you a real world experience with what he recently experienced with that large site. Bob?
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, I recently had an opportunity to work with an integrator here in Houston, Texas. And excuse me, we did a survey of a large multi-story shopping mall in downtown Houston. And basically, we were looking at a couple of hundred end devices. The application was to protect the perimeter of that particular facility. Lots of twists and turns and various types of construction. We were able to survey the site in less than a day, myself and the integrator, and wound up with about 46 repeaters on the system. It does a couple of different things. It actually, and Scott alluded to it earlier, you know, once the project's complete, you wind up with a customer that has a system that works and they're happy. And the other thing it does, it sets your service department up to win in the long run because we know that the system was designed right in the first place. In this particular application, it was a panel that sat on a network and talked to an alarm receiver in Indianapolis, Indiana. And my integrator won the project. It still hasn't been executed because of the situation that we're in right now, but feeling pretty good about the result. Like I said, we were able to do that entire survey, and I don't even know how many hundreds of thousands of square feet it was, but in less than a day. So it was a really, really good investment of time.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Bob. Yeah, so in addition to that flexibility and lower labor costs you get with wireless, using this tool, you can effectively determine signal strength for any location on site while preparing a quote. And just one other point to add here too, you know, we've built in some safety measures with respect to the signal strength that's provided here, but you know, even if you're getting close to that red line, just go ahead and add a repeater. You know, they're really not that expensive. And as Bob said, set the site up right, set yourself up right, and make sure the system's going to work. Let's talk a little bit about how you actually conduct a survey. So here, to perform a survey, you simply activate that pendant and you place that pendant where the head end receiver is going to go. You walk that site, visiting each point where you intend to install a transmitter, and when you expect, or where you expect a mobile duress pendant to be used. When that needle dips into the red, that's a pretty good indication that you're going to need a repeater for that location. Note at that time where you could possibly install a repeater, where you're going to need access to line power, and you want to make sure it's placed in a location that's secure and out of the way so people don't mess with it. What's demonstrated here is the most conservative way to survey a site. There are other options too, to include placing the pendant maybe at the farthest points of the property and then walking back to the head end application. Again, depending on what's right for you and your customers in the specific site, get in touch with your account manager and they can walk you through the options and even take you through a demonstration of how the system is going to work. So to sum up, with the 7017 Survey Kit and app, you can walk a site, look where that needle dips into the red, you know exactly where you need to put a repeater to ensure signal propagation. With this Survey Kit and app, you remove the guesswork, you improve profitability, you avoid scheduling delays, requotes, and the cost overruns, getting it right the first time. You get a very efficient tool. A single employee can complete a survey in a single walkthrough. Overcome fear of wireless. You can demonstrate the effectiveness of the wireless system for your staff, folks on the customer side, anybody that might have been burned by wireless in the past, or has maybe had mixed experiences with other commercial applications using wireless. Last but not least, and Eric alluded to this, we didn't spend a lot of time talking about it today, but you can use this as a powerful troubleshooting tool. This can be especially useful if something on the property changes, such as a post-installation remodel, or maybe there's a late change to the job. Somebody puts a big metal box where the big metal box didn't exist before. You want to make sure that doesn't disrupt the flow of the signal strength throughout the building. The survey kit can help with that. And certainly get in touch with your account managers, and they can give you details on how to do things like troubleshooting with the kit and app. When weighing the benefits of wired versus wireless for a particular installation, make sure you understand the quoting tools available. If your job does call for wireless, know that with our survey kit and app, you and your entire team can be armed with a powerful tool to prepare accurate quotes and improve profitability, with the added benefit of being able to demonstrate the effectiveness of wireless. Before we open it up for questions, the next up topic is going to be commercial fire, and that'll be presented by my compatriot on the product management team, Michael. So if that's something that fits in with your portfolio, please make sure to sign up for that session. So with that, I will open it up to questions and any feedback that might have come in.
Okay, great. So I do think we actually got a little bit of feedback here on your question, Scott. Now rereading this chat, it looks like when you are asking in the PowerPoint presentation at which stage are you usually called upon to estimate, anonymous, it is anonymous post, but it says that they usually go in at the beginning and then just have to make it work.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. Yeah, that's tough, right? You have to. You're asked to know where hardware is going to be, but the whole building isn't built out, and we know that things like structure can disrupt the flow of a site, of a survey. In those situations where you're asked to survey the site and prepare the quote way early, that's a good opportunity to get your account manager involved, because they're pretty well experienced with what might come up, and even looking at things like building material. And foliage and things like that's planned for the site. We can make accommodations, and again, add a repeater. It really doesn't cost that much, and better to do it up front rather than have to come back after the fact. But yeah, we hear that a lot. Too early is a big problem.
All right, next question is from Henry with RFT. Has the survey app been updated to indicate signal strength numerical value 1 through 100, similar to the EN4016SK survey kit?
We haven't included that. I mean, what you can, if you just look at this this needle, it's a kind of a fine line that we walk between providing too much information and not enough. The initial thought was, let's just say green or red. If it's green, it's good. If it's red or it's bad. We're going to develop a enhanced version of this sometime in the near future that's going to incorporate some of the more advanced functionality you see in our other survey kit, which is the 7016. But look for that in the near future. For now, this is really intended to be a very down and dirty, do you need a repeater or do you not? I think you can make some inferences based upon where that needle is appearing. This is good, this isn't so good. But in terms of the actual number, no, that's not something that's included in the app currently.
Okay, and then how long does it take to actually survey a site?
Yeah, as Bob mentioned when he was reviewing his recent job, a large site like that, certainly less than a day. Most of the properties that our security integrators are working with, the question typically isn't how many repeaters, but do you need one? So if it's a retail establishment, it's a small office, it's a matter of half an hour, maybe an hour. For those larger sites that may require 3 or 5 repeaters, maybe a couple of few hours, but certainly less than a day. And I think if you think about how long it takes to walk a site, that's how long it's going to take you to conduct a survey.
Okay, great. And then Jerry asks, any plans to add multiple survey device readings so you can switch between points?
Yep, great question. So again, that's functionality that's in our 7016 kit. And you can buy the receiver separately too. We will be working to integrate that capability into this device. I'll say in the next year or so. But for now, the 4016 SK, which is that more advanced tool, that's available. If you have questions about that or need that, get in touch with your account manager, and they can direct you to how to acquire that. It is available through distribution.
Okay, great. And then Alan was just contributing a little feedback here. I think he did a similar mall, and it took 2 of us for a day to walk the whole mall. So this could save time. But the one thing we found was that we had a limit on repeaters on the Bosch control they wanted to use.
Right. Yeah, and actually, I think Bob, you could probably speak to that. Or Eric, I know you can add on at that panel level. Do you have any comments on that?
I think Bob does. I'm going to send him over. Go ahead, Bob.
You can add the EN Kit 01 to that Bosch panel, which will allow you to deploy more than 8 repeaters. You might want to get in touch with your Bosch dealer, and depending on what panel that you're working with, you might need a bus kit to add to the panel, but you can exceed that 8 repeater limit.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah, with certain panels.
Gotcha, perfect. Well, Alan also asked if there's a cost on the kit.
Yeah, so this is a tool, right? And we've not made this as something that we're trying to make money off of. The more of these we get in people's hands, like the folks that are on this call, the better for everybody. So we've tried to price it very affordably. It's really at our cost to the market. Depending on where you get it in distribution, certainly under a couple $100. And it's available Annixter, ADI, other security dealers. And there may be a question about this, Nikki, and if you don't think you're going to need one always, get in touch with your account manager, or even some of the distribution outlets. They have loaners available. If your local branch doesn't have a loaner program, encourage them to get one set up. Again, though, because it's so affordable, you should be able to get 1 or 2 for your organization, and then share them amongst your team. We wanted to price it such that if somebody backed over one, or they threw it in the back of their pickup truck and it rained the next day or whatever, it's fairly inexpensive to replace.
All right, great. I think you've already touched on this, but I'll go ahead and ask, just to be safe, is what about for more complex sites with many repeaters? Right.
Yeah. So again, it had been offered as the EN 7016 survey kit. Today we offer it as the EN 4016 SK survey kit receiver. So you just buy that receiver a la carte. Or get in touch with your account manager, and they could probably loan you one. And then the same pendant works with that. The same pendant that works with this device works with the other receiver as well. There's also another transmitter, the 1210 SK. The pendant is good because it's low power, so it's a conservative way to do a site survey. The 1210 SK is a little bit higher power, more typical of most of our transmitters. So that might be a little bit more realistic depending on what endpoints you're using, but get in touch with your account manager if you have questions about that other survey capability.
Okay, great, Scott. Well, you don't have any more questions as of right now. If any others filter in, we'll of course just follow up with you by email. But thanks for the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and send it back over to Eric.
Great. Scott and Bob, thank you very much. Hopefully we've given you some food for thought on how to utilize the Inovonics survey kit to make your projects and quotes go smoothly and help you crush your numbers. Lastly, one last order of business is just to get some names out for the winners of the coffee gift cards. So this week we have David Goldstone. We have Daniel Swathwood and Steve Booker. So congratulations there. Please join us next week here at the Weekly Cup. Stay healthy and stay tuned for more wireless insight. Cheers.